Hey there, this is your pal Pallie, and welcome back to Overrated. This is episode number 44, and today's topic is going to be a Blackrock Foundry preview. So yes, I've got some footage of Blackrock Foundry beta testing, and we're going to take a look, and I'm going to comment. And this is actually from the raid guides. Just a note, if you didn't watch last episode, I'm not going to be doing raid guides for live and probably the next few months. But I already did have all of Blackrock Foundry covered in terms of the beta footage and all that stuff from many months ago. So, still check out the channel. I've still got stuff that is going to be good and useful for you. Yay. So, I don't think there's any other announcements that I had. Probably not yet. But, anywho, let's check out some of this footage. So again, this is from the raid guide, and this is the Hansgar and Franzuk raid encounter in Blackrock Foundry. This is one of fights. You could actually technically do this one first if you wanted, but this one is really fun if you're a hunter. Because I want to sort of preview this to show you just how OP Aspect of the Fox is going to be for raid encounters. So basically, these guys they jump around, and there's some stuff that they do to damage the raid in this first phase. But this normal phase, so to speak, is pretty simple. Tanks are getting nailed a little bit, but and I'm showing this is again the raid guide, so I'm talking blah 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 about things. But there's sort of some AoE damage that you see there. Not too bad. This is from heroic testing. And you need the two tanks to split up the guys, and they'll jump around here and there. I think I highlight that here in a moment. See, there's a body slam, and after they body slam, that AoE damage comes out. So predictable damage patterns for this first phase. But what really gets fun is when you damage them. I think it's 25%, and then one of them leaps away and starts operating these conveyor belts, and yeah, that's when the fun begins. That's when you go, dang, wish I was a hunter. See, it's starting to move, and I'm just doing my damage, and I don't really care, ha ha ha. Yeah, and then all this stuff starts coming out. So in this first phase, you'll get a good glimpse of this first transition phase, so to speak. These plates come out. If you get hit by them, you're probably dead. But they start coming out in predictable patterns. There's 4. There's only 1 gap there. Now you got to go all the way to the right. Just that kind of stuff. So it was pretty predictable in terms of where you need to go next. But certainly, really sucks for people who have a cast time. So us hunters were rotating. There's Aspect of the Fox. You can see the little icon above my head. And I don't think that was mine. I think that was the other hunters. But anywho, yeah, just lots of frickin' movement, and you're gonna get sick of it because it's quite often, quite frickin' often. So this phase actually lasts not necessarily a certain amount of time, but you do have to get them down another percentage of health. Again, I don't remember the percentages. I had some of it in the raid guide. Some of it wasn't clear yet, and they changed a little bit of it as well. But anywho, that's one part of it with all of these plates going on everywhere. And yeah, I just feel so sorry for people who are not hunters. I mean, look at that dead guy over there. That dead priest in the angelic form. It's so wrong. But anywho, this is I mean, I say that's, it's not a difficult fight. You can sort of see the damage predictability here. I mean, no one's taking damage now until they slam the ground again, and getting around these plates is not that big of a deal. So, you just keep moving, and you probably as a healer or a caster, you're gonna cast and then reposition and cast and reposition, etc., etc. There was some rumor that you could stand in between the plates and you wouldn't move, but probably not as efficient. So that's the searing plate one. There's another transition phase coming up here that's just as hard and just as much movement. So we'll get to that here in a second. Yep, here we go. Alright, this is the Stampy Plate phase. That's what I call it. So you see those presses coming down. You get slammed by them, yeah, you're probably pretty dead. And there's a lot of other raid damage going out too. So same thing, belts moving, gotta jump around, gotta move, cast. It's just, yeah. I don't know what they were thinking when they made this fight, because it's just like a ton of raid damage and a ton of stuff that you've got to do and not get, like, I myself was having trouble figuring out this fight as a hunter, and I just can't imagine how this is going to work for mages and all you people doing more damage. Now, in melee, of course, obviously the boss is running around because the tank is running around too, and he's also leaping around everywhere, so, you know, just reroll hunter. Just do it now. And you can see there's other patterns that this phase happens and whatnot. Eventually, this phase happens at 60% or something along those lines. You have to get him another 10% to get out of this phase, something like that. And then apparently, I don't recall from the Dungeon Journal, or, well, they may have changed it since it's gone live, or, well, when it goes live. But there was a third transition phase that was one or the other of those searing plates or the stampy stuff. It may have been that way just for testing, but you'll see. We'll see. So anyway, you got a sense of the fight, you got a sense of what happens here, so just happy days. So if you haven't heard yet, Blackrock Foundry does come out in another, let's see, 1 raid, 2, 3. So you have 3 more raid weeks, counting this one that we're in, since this is January 17th. So yeah, Blackrock Foundry coming out. And if you don't know a lot about Blackrock Foundry yet, it is a 10-boss instance. It is very non-linear. There are like wings to it and places you go. I'm not even actually sure if there are optional bosses, because just imagine you're walking into this zone, so to speak, and if you go straight, there's places to go. But if you go, I think that's the eventual Blackhand room. I actually didn't have to walk to Blackhand's room when I was testing that. But if you go to the direct right, the first right you can take, you sort of go down a hall, and there's like 3 or 4 bosses down there. There's like Gruul, not Flamebender, Chromog, and a couple other bosses down that way. And that's how you get to Blast Furnace 2. Then, not necessarily the first right, but the next right is a hallway down which you get to Beastlord Darmak, and you get Operator Thorgar. And Thorgar's the one with all the trains, so if you see some of those guides and whatnot, that one's great. I liked that fight, and I wish I'd gotten further in it in the testing. But what I'm really, really jazzed about is there's an achievement called, There's Always a Bigger Train. And what you do to get this achievement is you put down one of those annoying toy train sets that makes everyone go woo woo and all that kind of stuff. But then you put the train wrecker toy to wreck the train, and then it has to go over there and wreck the train. And then, while it's still like celebrating that it's killed the train, a train from the encounter rolls by and smashes it, and then you get the achievement, which I think is just an awesome, like, hey, I wrecked the train, and now it just wrecked me, kind of. I don't know. I geek out on that kind of stuff, so really happy about that achievement and can't wait to get that one. But anywho, So Upright of Thorgar, Beast Lord Darmak are down that way. Beast Lord Darmak is probably one of the first bosses people will want to kill, not only from the standpoint of it's really quick to get there. I mean, it's like there's some opening trash there when you enter that you would have to clear regardless of what boss you go to, and then there's maybe a pack or two, and then Beast Lord Darmak's room is right there. It's really quick to get to him, and he's a fairly simple, lots of ads come out, cannon fodder, pretty simple mechanics, and he'll probably be one of the first bosses you tackle, just from ease of encounter standpoint. Gruul's probably another one that you want to head to first. But anyway, so that's to the right side as you come in. To the left side, there's an elevator, and it takes you way down, and then there's like a whole section down there in Blackrock Foundry that has Flamebender, Cromog. He's down that way. He's not the other way to the right. Who else is there? Oh, the encounter that we just saw, Hansgar and Franzhook. And actually, I believe you can go through them or go through another boss to get to Flamebender. It's again, lots of choices, lots of places you want to go and such. That's really cool about that. So yeah, the bottom floor has quite a few bosses down there as well. So again, very spread out. Where do you want to go first? What do you want to tackle? And you can sort of spend your night in a wing, or spend your night downstairs, or whatever you want to do. So pretty cool instance, and I really like the ambiance of it. And again, you'll get to see it in just a couple weeks. But I wanted to bring that sort of preview of a boss or two and show you, what's going on with it. So again, this is also the time where you have to decide what difficulty is my raid group ready for. And I know I'm going to get the item levels wrong, but in general, if you're clearing Heroic High Mall, or close to it, if you've got 5 or 6 bosses down, I know Imperator's kind of hard on Heroic and Normal, and obviously Mythic. But if you've got, most of the bosses down in Heroic, and your raid is sort of already 665, 670-ish, something like that, you're probably definitely going to be able to walk right in and hit Heroic Blackrock Foundry and start clearing bosses. Now, will you want to do that? That's a big question. Certainly, normal mode is going to have the same gear as Heroic, obviously lower item level. I think it's slightly higher. If I recall, I'm going to get this wrong. I'm sorry. I should have prepared on that. But I believe, like, if Heroic High Mall is 670, I believe normal Blackrock Foundry is like 675, I want to say. I could be wrong. Or maybe it's 665. I think it's 665 because I was thinking of... Yeah, anywho. Normal, 665. Cool. So maybe not a lot of upgrades for you. But there's the tier. We finally get our tier 17, and it might be useful to go through the bosses that drop the tier on normal mode just to get those bonuses. I don't know, again, it'll entirely depend on your class and if the set bonuses are OP or anything. Usually in the first tier of an expansion they aren't, but your mileage might vary. So again, if you're clearing Heroic High Mall, probably going to, in general, head straight to Heroic Blackrock Foundry and start, chugging through that. It's a big instance. It's 10 bosses. There's a lot going on there. So you're going to have to decide, what's our best... Do we need the set bonuses? Should we go back in normal? Do we go into Heroic? Who knows? Who knows? And of course, I mean, there are a lot of good pieces of gear hanging out in all difficulties of whatever High Mall version you're running at the moment. So if you're just getting through a few, even mythics or something, maybe you should farm those mythics and then head over to Blackrock Foundry when it comes out. Probably not. Probably people are going to want... Oh my. Probably people are going to want to head straight into Blackrock Foundry. It's the new content. Everyone's sick of Heimall already after 6 weeks. Or, whatever. But Blackrock Foundry will be where you head. So, I don't know. There's a lot of good advice to throw out there in terms of where you should go. But I know everyone's going to go to Blackrock Foundry anyway. So, it's all good. It's all good. And there are some really fascinating encounters. Ore Gorger is another one where you go down there and there's this like little maze type thing. It's not a maze, I mean it connects to each other, but it's a little, room divided into little small corridors and stuff with like ore piles in the middle, and there's, pretty simplistic phase 1, but in phase 2 he starts rolling around that maze and bashing into walls, and you have to like feed him ore and stuff in order to get him out of that phase, and just, pretty interesting. Feel like you're a little rat running through the maze type of encounter. So, there's a whole lot. And then you get to the last 2 bosses. Iron Maidens is the second to last boss. If you thought Korog in Heimall was complicated, get ready, because Iron Maidens is another like Paragons of the Calaxy type. It's a council style fight. Again, I got a raid guide on it if you want to check it out. But it's pretty complicated, and even more so on Heroic and Mythic. Just like, wow, here's a whole lot of stuff to deal with. And then certainly Blackhand. I only got to do 1.5 phases of him, so I don't really have a great experience with it. But he's certainly, from what I've seen in point of view videos, etc., from beta, he's certainly worthy of being the last boss in that instance. So, lots to get through, lots of fun stuff in Blackrock Foundry. Just get ready for it. Get ready for it. And, that's sort of a preview of what you've got coming. But I sort of want to talk briefly about the context of when it's dropping in comparison to what's happening with burnout. So last subject of Overrated was talking about raider burnout, and of course where the heck I'd been. But do you really think that Blackrock Foundry is going to fit the bill for people? I'm not sure. So I feel like it'll be slightly better for some of the reasons that I noted about Heimall are not going to apply necessarily to Blackrock Foundry, but maybe they will be worse. So the first one is talking about running multiple difficulties. So again, my advice here just 5-10 minutes ago was you might want to check out normal. If you're in Heroic or if you're in Mythic, you might want to go back and do the lower difficulty to get set bonuses and such. Yeah, running the instance multiple times. Sorry, but it might be useful for your guild and for your raid group. So that sort of is still exacerbated. It's still in there. Now, certainly, if you're a raiding guild that's tackling normal or slightly into Heroic of Heimall right now, you're probably not going to do LFR of Blackrock Foundry. I'm pretty sure, gear-wise, you're not going to want to check that out. But so that's slightly better for some groups, or probably a lot of groups really. But still, anyone who's into normals into heroics, or heroics into mythic, or all mythic, you're probably going to be looking at a couple running Blackrock Foundry and a couple difficulties for at least a few weeks. So, do we burn out on Blackrock Foundry in 6 weeks? And here it is. February 2nd is when it's going to be released, and by mid-March we're all going, man, where's the next tier? I mean, it could happen. People could be complaining. I mean, everyone will always complain. There will always be someone who will be that guy who goes, yes, I'm bored with it already. I'm bored. Get me out of this thing. There always is someone. But for the vast majority of people, the sort of people who came back for Warlords and maybe came back for Blackrock Foundry after, not liking High Mall or not feeling the raiding scene or whatever, maybe they come back for Blackrock Foundry. Is it going to hold them for long enough? Are they going to get through it? I don't know. Again, people are going to be able to, they're going to be able to clear difficulty. If they're raiding heroics now, they're going to be able to clear normal and see Black Hand die and then go, well, I killed him. Alright, waiting for the next tier. Waiting for the next content. I mean, that truly was what happens to a lot of people. Had quite a few people in Siege of Orgrimmar where we killed normal mode Garrosh and went, alright, we're good. We saw the end of the expansion. Don't need to kill him on heroic. We know there's that extra phase thingy, but we're good. We're good. I mean, that it was over for people at that point, which is a perfectly valid way to play the game. I mean, a lot of games these days have the normal and the heroic difficulty or hard mode or insane mode or whatever, and a lot of people will just play the game and kill it on the normal mode and go, it's a pretty good game. I don't really care about playing it on insane. I'm just gonna finish. I finished it. I'm good. No reason for me to do it. It's perfectly valid. It's perfectly valid. So, Blackrock Foundry, will it hold the people? Are you excited about playing it? I am. Yeah. I love the encounters in there. What would be my favorite encounter? Certainly the train one. I mean, the train one wasn't really that interesting from a mechanic standpoint. It's like a bunch of ads pop out. Yes, you gotta dodge the trains like constantly, so it's pretty funny when the whole raid group like steps in front of a train and you're like, ah! That was funny. Until you wipe into that about 50 times and then you're like, seriously guys, get out of the front of the train. Well, what else? What was a good encounter that I really liked? I really liked Kromog because he's a big giant guy. He like puts his hand on the ground and then like little fingers come up and grab you, and it's kind of like the Spine of Deathwing thing where you need to get grabbed by that thing in order to survive something, because he'll like stomp the ground and you'll get like thrown way up in the air if you're not grabbed by one of those hands. But those hands are like squeezing you, doing damage, and you gotta clear people out, and it was always fun to like have barrage just going everywhere. Massive AoE damage. So I like that fight, and it was a pretty simplistic, like, this happens, then this happens, break people out, do this, watch this half of the room, etc., type encounter. So, and even on Mythic, it wasn't too much harder, so to speak. So I think that'll be one that people target early, along with Beast Lord. Beast Lord was kind of a DPS check thing for Mythic, I believe. So yeah, and I like those, I guess, from the standpoint of there was just so much to AoE. So get ready, AoE specs. There's a few fights that you're gonna need them for. Probably my least favorite fight in testing was Blast Furnace. I just did not get that fight. Just did not get it. I'm like, okay, you gotta do this, bring the bombs over here, but people were just, I can't wait to see that one on LFR. It's probably going to be really dumbed down for LFR, but that fight has so many different ad types, so many different things you should be doing and can be doing, not to mention you can mind control some of the ads to be helpful to your raid, and it wasn't even like clear that you should do that, and I don't know, I just didn't get the point of that fight. And it is one of the ones that you do need for your legendary ring or for the next phase of it, so yeah, you're gonna have to do it. But just, yeah. But anywho, I was pretty much near the end of this this diatribe. Blackrock Foundry coming out soon. Lots of people excited, lots of people jazzed. Hope you are too. And again, thanks for joining me on Overrated. This has been episode number 44. Just a quick preview of Blackrock Foundry. Appreciate someone hanging out and telling me my sound was messed up. Hey, there's a plus. That's a start. I'll certainly edit this back down and figure it out for YouTube and make sure it looks nice and sounds nice and all that other stuff and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, please subscribe to YouTube, and if you're watching it there, and hang out at twitch.tv/GetterRaid for the live episodes that broadcast on at 11 p.m. Central on Saturday. And yeah, thanks all for watching, and have a good one.